St. Paul says, from all eternity, God has in mind that He brings us together here today. He calls us His people, invited us to follow Him as we sang in a song at the beginning of the Mass, that we would respond to Him. And today we're going to talk about prophets, and if you ever want a vocation that's difficult, prophecy is one of those, because prophets are never accepted, because they always have a tough message that they give out. So we had Amos in the Old Testament. He was from the southern kingdom, Judah. He had to go up to Israel, the northern kingdom, and tell them that their ruler, their king, was worshiping wrong gods. He would be deported, they would be overrun by the Assyrians. And so his message was not very acceptable to them. And so the priest that was there at the royal worship place said, go back where you came from, we don't need you around here. And Amos said, well, it wasn't my idea. I was happy taking care of sycamore trees. I was happy taking care of my sheep. But it's God who called me to deliver this message. And prophets always were calling God's message to the people. It wasn't their own idea, but they wanted people to understand what God wanted them to do. And we know in our life there's always that tendency to want to do what we want to do in our way instead of God's way. In fact, the Greeks had a wonderful idea. They made the gods to do all the things they wanted to do, and then they worshiped their gods, which meant they worshiped themselves. We like our own agenda. We like to do it our way. And that's why we need prophets to continue to proclaim the good news to us. So the question is, what are the false gods in our society that we worship? I would like you to think about this thing called cell phone. How important is cell phone? It goes with us nowadays, for especially the young people. Wherever they go, there's a cell phone goes along with that. See sometimes in restaurants where there are three young people and they all have their cell phones out talking to the cell phones. No one's talking to the other person there. The personal touch is being lost. Jesus told us we love one another as He loved us. But sometimes this is sort of taking over that particular point. I remember one time I was preaching, cell phone rang, and I looked, it was my brother. I didn't answer him, by the way. So afterwards I called him and I said, why did you call me? You know I was at Mass. And he said, well, I didn't think you were dumb enough to keep your phone on during Mass. Just to let you know, it's on vibrate now, it's not on. So what do we think is so important to keep us from being God's messengers today? A friend of mine, Bernie Reinhardt, his family came from here, New Riegel, met him in Toledo. He had made a Cursillo retreat that got him closer to God. And he had this wonderful habit, when somebody used the Lord's name in vain, he would say, oh, we share a mutual friend. And the other person looked at him and said, what are you talking about? Well, Jesus, He's my friend too, and he just used His name, so He must be your friend too. So he challenged the other person, saying that this name is important to me because God is important to me. He's a prophet to the folks that we encountered. How important is God's name to us? Enough to challenge other people to be reverent towards God in the name? And then we have Honoring Sunday. All of you are here honoring the Lord, worshiping together, praising God together. That's what He wants us to do. And He wants us to spend time together as families on Sundays. He wants us to relax and take it easy. We're busy the rest of the week. A good friend of mine is a farmer. Talked to him a little while back. He said, need about 3-4 more days to get the wheat in. Really blessed this year. It's good. Looks like we'll have a lot of good results from the harvest. And I said, you're not going to work on Sunday, are you? And there was a pause. And he's been struggling with that. I think he's about 85% on keeping Sunday free. But every once in a while, he just can't help himself. He gets out in the field. And I said, I don't want to say anything, but I could ask God to bring rain today. Guess what? It rained today and he didn't go out in the field. I'm sure that he probably wouldn't have gone anyway, but it helped him to have that resolution. What is it that drives us on Sunday to not take time to just relax, to enjoy one another, to do things that build up family life? And we know that we have these traveling teams, they always do it on Sunday. And so parents go with them and they can't go to church because a kid happens to play at that time. What makes that more important than God's message to keep holy the Sabbath? We need to hear that message because God is the one that blesses us. He's the one that gives us everything that we have. And so we ignore that for the sake of our agenda. And we know that parents like kids to be good and to be excellent, and hopefully they'll end up in the NBA or in the baseball major league so they can support them in their old age, which doesn't really happen. We know that. But there's a tendency sometimes to forget the priorities that God gives us in our life. I've always impressed when a parish has a week of service for the young people where they find out what in their community who needs help, maybe fixing up the house, lawn, weeding, whatever. And these kids volunteer for a whole week to help out in that. Very impressive because they're witnessing to God's love and their love for their community that they live in. I saw where an 11-year-old kid for his birthday wanted people to give him money so that he could help the soup kitchen. He took his birthday money to do that. What a witness. And then we have Mother Teresa of Calcutta. She had 5 rubles, and I don't know what a ruble is. Let's say it's about $1, I don't know. Anyway, she had 5 of them, and a priest came along and asked for support for his parish. She had already used up 4 in her work, and she had 1 ruble left. But she gave that one too. So she gave everything. Like in the gospel, Jesus sent him out. It says, don't take any food, no sack, no money, nothing with you to proclaim the good news. And so Mother Teresa gave her last dollar to that priest. That afternoon, the priest came back and he had an envelope for her, said that this man found out about your work and he wanted you to have this envelope. She opened up, there were 50 rubles in that envelope. And she said, that's where I knew God would take care of us. God would take care of us. A priest friend of mine he never asked for money in the parishes where he was at. He'd have the collections, the national collections and that, but he said he never asked for money. One time his business manager or secretary came and said, we have this bill for $70,000 coming in, and we don't have the money, Father. And he said, well, we better start praying. That Monday, envelope came from a lady which they didn't know who she was, but the check was for $70,000. He never asked for money, but God took care of him. Generosity, a witness to others. I encourage people when they go to a restaurant to make the sign of the cross as they ask the Lord to bless the food. I learned it from a Pentecostal minister. When I went out to him, and we always asked the waitress, is there something you want us to pray for? Because we're going to bless the food. And we got some wonderful stories. The one that really struck me was this lady said she'd been waiting on people for 16 years. No one ever asked her what she wanted or what was going on in her life. 16 years she waited on people, and none of them treated her like a human being who had another agenda, maybe was hurting. And as I used that technique, a lot of times it was asking us to pray for son or daughter taking drugs, for help in passing examinations, after car accident. A lot of stories. But again, reaching out, witnessing to them the importance of prayer, and we can do it very simply in a restaurant. Just the sign of the cross says, we believe that Jesus died on the cross for us. We witness to that, a simple thing to be a prophet. We have a lot of prophets these days called grandparents who are taking care of grandkids because the kids don't have parents to take care of them and they've taken over that responsibility. Or couples who adopt or who are there as foster parents for children that have no one to care for them. They're wonderful prophets because they bring God's love to them. Heard this preacher on the radio, and he was talking about we should be perfect as the Heavenly Father is perfect, which is what Jesus said and St. Paul said. And the husband turned to the wife and said, you know, honey, you're not perfect. And she says, I know I'm not perfect, but I'm perfect for you. Think about that a minute. Perfect for you. Not perfect in all ways, but perfect for you. You're perfect for me this morning, I'm perfect for you. Everyone that we meet this week, we're perfect for them, and they're perfect for us. Now, the way they're perfect for us might be their pain in our side, and we have to be patient, kind, loving. They might be supportive, they might be encouraging. That's the way they might be to us. But they're perfect for us. And when Jesus said, where two or three are gathered in my name, that's where I'm going to be. So whenever we meet those other folks, Jesus is there with us to help us in being prophets to them. We're perfect for them and they're perfect for us. And why? Because together we're heading for the promised land, we're heading for heaven, and we're there to help one another to get there. And that's what we need to do as we're perfect for one another. There's mystery in that, but it's God's mystery of His love for you and His love for me.